haven't gotten to the rule yet.
I have a firm rule that if I can't get it
You
past
were
my
there
nose,
at some point.
go in my mouth.
Well, after music, that's all I remember. Or after. I think that's a good rule. You did it at somewhere where it was at 2 something, not 4 something. So I should remember it. Although I tried to acknowledge my existence.
That would involve me taking out my phone.
But I didn't say his name.
So the shul where I grew up in New Jersey,
Yeah, what they do?
the rabbi and most of the people there wore tefillin on Hall.
Really?
Then when I moved down here, and
First
affiliated with Orthodox Shul, the rabbi came from a Hasidic background, didn't know where tefillin, and most of the congregants didn't wear tefillin. So I switched.
Right.
So I haven't changed
Did anyone
since.
hear that music playing this morning?
Okay. Yes, I did. I called the police.
Did you?
Yeah.
Apparently, it's a church group that once a year, maybe it has to do with the daily same time, I'm not sure, that they have this big festival. It's some sort of yom for them.
Uh-huh.
So, no.
A Spanish church.
I know somebody.
I told the police.
What do they say? Huh?
Okay. So take care of it.
You're right.
Did it stop?
Yeah.
What time were they playing the music?
No.
What time were they
Back up,
playing the
next time.
music?
I thought I heard something. But I didn't know what it was.
My understanding, most of the police departments won't do anything before 12 o'clock.
Like here, it wasn't bad music.
Midnight.
No.
But if you're playing
It
music,
wasn't that loud.
It's blasted. I was trying to, there was a guy on my window.
Do you have,
yeah, they play it out
hurricane
the
windows?
window.
That's why you heard it.
They play it out the window.
I didn't hear it at all.
Huh, you hear? I heard it, I heard it, I don't know if Debbie heard it. Let's put it this way, she didn't get up and say, your TV's on,
Remember when I
or
was
your
in
phone's
law
on,
school?
or,
This is a long time
6:46
ago.
a.m.
Some of this
This is really
were
fun.
like apartments, like little.
it was on before.
It was,
I think it was on, at least it's
it was
showing.
finals week. So it was like Saturday night. We were trying to study or
6:46?
whatever. Yeah. So this apartment across by this pool, they were playing the music out the window. So
Huh?
when they were still doing it, my roommate was a big liberal, so he wouldn't call the cops. But I did. Okay. I called the cops. So a few minutes later, the cops arrived, and all this stuff goes flying out the window. All the marijuana goes flying out. They arrested everybody in this place. My roommate felt sorry for those people. First of all, they're stupid. But that you're gonna play music out the window. Don't also have a hot bar.
The irony, after I mentioned that this one gets into family politics,
Yeah.
I thought I had to go to Boca first thing this morning.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
He orchestrated some reason he had to go to Boca.
Okay. Okay. Are we ready for action? Okay, good morning. Now we can begin. I'd like to thank everyone coming out early this morning. After we changed the clock, we keep the same time. So big yashikayach. Okay, so we only have a few weeks between now and Pesach. So as Hashem, from after this year, I hope to give each share next few weeks about the Yom Tov of Pesach. Already in the Shloshim Yom Kodem Achad, we have to learn the halachos of Pesach. But I figured this week I would pick sort of in between, literally. I'm going to pick the halachos of Chol Hamoed. Now we've done a little bit of Chol Hamoed in the past, but this topic we have not touched. And from different feedback I've gotten over Shabbos and up to this morning, it seems like it's a hot topic. So that's great. We love hot topics. The title of today's share, we called it Boxed Out. Wearing Tefillin, or not, on Chol Hamoed. Boxed out. Now, some of the people, someone started a campaign. It's not a joke. He just left. But one of the people from our share started a campaign called Black Lines Matter. Each Chol Hamoed, he will send pictures of his protest that Black Lives Matter, and
Black Lives.
There's only one Avram Eliezer.
For or against the wearing tefillin?
You have to ask him. But every Chol Hamoed, he posts pictures pushing everybody that Black Lives Matter. I don't think he riots. I don't think he raids any stores, but he does push his black lines.
Doesn't burn tefillin?
Every Chol Hamoed.
I assume in favor of wearing tefillin.
Yeah, that's what the idea of black lines matter.
Yeah.
But in general, just as an introduction, I think one of the areas in halacha which is probably the most misunderstood are the halachas of Chol Hamoed. What is Chol Hamoed? Is it Yom Tiv? Is it Chol? Is it something between, right? Oh, right. I just heard of the gears of the Chol or Moed. Right? Chol Hamoed, what is it? Like the word itself conjures up svekos. And the most challenging thing in Yiddishkeit is when things you don't understand, things don't seem to make sense. It's very hard to deal with things if there's a lack of clarity. So we're going to try today to delve into the clarity of Chol Hamoed. What is it exactly? Now, I think the best way to deal with this is, I'll even add one step. While there's more clarity, while there's more uncertainty in particular about the halachos of putting on tefillin in Chol Hamoed. If you look on the top left side of your page, I copied an Aruch HaShulchan, and just the opening line, Uvedin tefillin b'Chol Hamoed, regarding the halachos of tefillin on Chol Hamoed, Bishas, in the entire Gemara, Uverif, and one of the major poskim, the Rif, Rabbeinu Alfas, the Rambam, and the Rambam, Lo Huzka Lehedya im Chayi b'Tefillin Lav. It's not just boxed out, it's blacked out. Nowhere in the Gemara, Bavli, nowhere in the Rif and his halachas, nowhere in the expansive Rambam and his halachas do you find clearly what is the halacha about wearing tefillin on Chol Hamoed. So we have a sandwich here. In general, Chol Hamoed is misunderstood. On top of that, this particular halacha, does one wear tefillin on Chol Hamoed, cannot be found in the Gemara and in two of the major poskim, the Rif and the Rambam. Now, the rest of this piece you go through, there are Rishonim that talk about it, and we'll see that soon. Yes?
So whatever the standard was, no one questioned it. Everybody did the same thing up until it became a question.
See, this is the danger when people try to mix in their historic knowledge and the halacha share. I don't know, right? Well, I'll bring to you what's quoted in the halacha svarim. I don't know historically what happened. You know, did Moshe Rabbeinu, that's what we're debating for, wear tefillin on Chol Hamoed or not? I can't say.
Wasn't around.
Huh?
There's one theory about it out there,
Yeah.
that it does seem that there was a substantial period of Jewish history during the time of the Gaonim where people, the Chol, did not wear tefillin.
In general.
In general. That led to all week
They didn't wear.
Really?
They didn't wear, period.
Period.
The whole year.
Because, in other words,
The whole year.
The exception.
you have to, I guess.
Because of Kufnaki? For the home audience, Rabbi Flamotz is bringing up some historical interesting tidbit that during the period of the Gaonim there were segments of Klal Yisrael that did not wear tefillin. That sounds okay.
Because they thought they were
The same reason, really, if you look in the Torah, really, Me'ikar Adin, you're supposed to, this notion of wearing tefillin during davening, you're supposed to wear tefillin
All day, okay.
all the time.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why we don't do that. So people, for the same reason we don't wear them all day, they just didn't wear them at all, and then there was for whatever reasons it fell out, and then there was a push during the time of the Gaonim, I think primarily the Pai Gaon, pushed that at least people should wear tefillin like a little bit during the day.
But seemingly, Rabbi Flamotz, you would admit that's not directly connected to the halachas of tefillin and Chol Hamoed.
Not at all. I'm just saying it can lead to a lot of confusion
Yes.
of Rabbeinu Tam and Rashi, and where there were periods of time where, in other words, this is the question. I don't know, why did this issue come up? How do you know whether you wear tefillin on Chol Hamoed or not? Well, because as a kid, I remember my father wore tefillin on Chol Hamoed. Even during the war period, right, during the Holocaust, where there was an incredible amount of upheaval, people basically remember certain things that people wore tefillin or they didn't wear tefillin in their communities, even though there was a period of time where they didn't do any, during the camps. So,
do you have a duty to follow your original community?
So we're going to talk about that. Excellent point. We're going to see. Okay, so yes. So I was just bringing up being boxed out, and some of these halachas are blacked out of, the halachas of Tefillin and Chol Hamoed. They're blacked out of the Gemara, the Rambam, and the Rif. Rabbi Flamotz, you want to go down the black hole, and you want to say that there's a period in time to go in and people didn't wear tefillin altogether. Okay, yeah. Look, there are many areas of halacha that there are confusion. Let's try to limit it for the meantime over here. Now, I think the best way to understand first why do we do or don't wear tefillin and Chol Hamoed, let's go to Shabbos and Yom Tov. If you look in Orach Chaim, Siman Lamed Aleph, Sif Aleph, I'm going to start from there. It says, B'Shabbos v'Yom Tov, Asar lo niach tefillin. Normally on Shabbos and Yom Tov is prohibited for a person to put on tefillin, because they themselves, tefillin are an os. It's a sign of this close relationship between the Jewish people and Hashem. V'menicham behem os acher hayazilzol os shalem. It'll be a zilzol, will be an embarrassment to the os that you already have. The concept is, I'm not sure this is a good mashal or not. A woman wears, an engagement ring, a wedding band. Imagine a woman wears 2 wedding bands.
2 guys.
Right. That itself is degrading. The point of a wedding band, of an engagement ring, is a sign, hey, I'm taken.
Off limits.
Right. I'm married. So similarly, we have an os. During the week, our os is our tefillin. But on Shabbos and Yom Tov is our os. If we would wear tefillin on Shabbos and Yom Tov, that would be degrading to the os of Shabbos, to the os of Yom Tov. We have this connection. We're wearing a ring already. So we don't put in the second ring. So that would be a reason why it would be usher. So you see from here already the concept that Shabbos and Yom Tov are an os, are a means of a bond between Klal Yisrael and the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Similarly, Tefillin is that. Tefillin is this major os. And once you're doing one os, you don't do the other os. Yes?
So should we get rid of our bris milos?
Oh, okay. Another os there, right?
That we always have even our
no. So, right, good point. Yes?
Just want to mention the severity of it, that even for the extra day of Yom Tov and Golos, we don't wear tefillin.
Right. That's a good point. The Chavetz Chaim points that out in the Mishnah Berurah. That's his first point he makes. Yom Tov means also Yom Tov Sheni. Now, so Shabbos and Yom Tov, we say it's asur to put on tefillin because that is an os. Now, therefore, that leads to a question, okay, what defines an os? What about Shabbos and Yom Tov make it this binding connection between us and Hashem? And the simplest answer by Shabbos and Yom Tov, very clear, is the Isser of Malacha. The fact that it's Asur for a person to perform Malacha on Shabbos, it's Asur also for a person to do most Malachas on Yom Tov. That itself creates an os. So Shabbos and Yom Tov have an os. Take that over to Chol Hamoed, that's where there's room to haggle. And we know Jews, anytime there's room to haggle, we'll haggle. I should mention, I just heard a very interesting point. There's a famous, if you're ever stuck and you're in, okay, I was going to say Brooklyn, but Brooklyn means, 4 major neighborhoods. It could be Flatbush, Borough Park, Williamsburg, or Crown Heights, all part of Brooklyn. So, okay, if you're in Borough Park and you need a minyan at any time of the day or night, where do you go? The Minyan Factory. Do you know the name of the Minyan Factory in Borough Park?
Bethel.
That was one of the old big synagogues, but they're not Minyan. It could be after some Minyan factories there. I don't know. The most famous Minyan factory, probably in all of Brooklyn, but in particular in Borough Park, is a shul called the Shomer Shabbos Shul.
Are they Shomer Shabbos?
Yes. The Shomer Shabbos Shul, it's near Fort Hamilton. I think it's 13th to 15th.
Really?
The Shomer Shabbos Shul is a major destination in Borough Park. I had to be in Borough Park last year at some point. I needed minyan and I went there. It was actually my first time I went. I was surprised how small it is.
Every 15 minutes.
Yeah, clockwork. Now, why do they call the Shomer Shabbos Shul? I just randomly heard this tidbit. And I told it over to their son-in-law, of David. Of course, I knew that. Why is it called the Shomer Shabbos Shul? Because back in the day in Brooklyn, when people went to work, right, at the turn of the century, a lot of Jewish people went to work on Shabbos, unfortunately. And what they did was, they would daven Shabbos morning early with their tefillin and then go to work. They were God-fearing Jews. Obviously, we can't judge them. At the same time, they were challenged that if they didn't go to work on Shabbos, they would lose their jobs, parnasa. And it was a very tough challenge for many of these people. Okay, Baruch Hashem, there were a lot of people that were Moser Nefesh and, got fired week after week. But there is a strong segment of people that did go to work on Shabbos, but they felt bad about it. They understood this idea that Shabbos is an os, and we're missing that os. So they would put on tefillin Shabbos morning, and they would go to shul, put on tefillin. That was a quite common practice.
Did you do the Shabbos davening?
Huh? Shabbos davening. The only difference was they wore tefillin. Huh? They take it off from Musaf. Yeah, Mustama. Now, right? You won't find the halachas of wearing tefillin on Shabbos anywhere, right? I don't know who made this up. The halacha is you can't be mechal Shabbos. But okay. So what happened was, Baruch Hashem, there's a segment of hardliners that no, we can't be mechal Shabbos and this. Okay, but people were coming. So one of the big shuls had a breakaway. They broke into two. And the breakaway called themselves the Shomer Shabbos Shul. And their shtick was their first minyan for davening Shabbos morning was at 9 o'clock. Everyone else is davening early Ashkama and going to work after. The Shomer Shabbos Shul was makbid. The first minyan Shabbos morning is going to be 9 o'clock. And that's why they have their name, Shomer Shabbos. Akash Baruch blessed that shul that it became such a popular, shul. And now no one understands. Why do you call a shul Shomer Shabbos? And all Jews are Shomer Shabbos.
The real Shomer Shabbos is for the ones that broke away.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so getting back, when it comes to Shabbos, Shabbos is an os, Yom Tov is an os, not doing malacha. What about Chol Hamoed? So simply put, like this. If you say Chol Hamoed, there's no Isser Malacha, so then you're right. Hey, Chol Hamoed is not also b'malacha necessarily the same ways as Shabbos and Yom Tov. You could drive a car. You could write. Now, granted, all these things I'm saying you're allowed to do, there are asterisks, caveats, when you could do them. But there is an understanding of some, let's start assuming that an Isser Malacha on Chol Hamoed is only an Isser D'Rabbanan. So it's not the same Isser Malacha by Chol Hamoed like you have in Shabbos and Yom Tov. So granted, Shabbos and Yom Tov are an Oz, but Chol Hamoed, which is not the same Isser Malacha, okay, so then it should be mutter. So then Chol Hamoed shouldn't have an Oz. Excuse me. Chol Hamoed shouldn't have an Oz. And for that alone, it should be a reason that one should put on tefillin. Okay? Assuming that it's not the same Isser Malacha Chol Hamoed like it is Shabbos and Yom Tov. So for Shabbos and Yom Tov, I don't put on tefillin because that's an Oz, because it's also for me to do malacha. Chol Hamoed is mutter for me to do malacha. So if you learn the whole thing is just an Isser Rabbanan, and that's what it is, okay? So you're ready, there's room to say, okay, it's different, and maybe you should be wearing tefillin. Now, if you look, Tosas talks about this in a few spots. One of them is the Moed Katan, the Sechta that talks about Hilchos Chol Hamoed. He brings a Hilchos Gedolos, which when you read through the Aruch HaShulchan says he never found this, Hilchos Gedolos. Couldn't find it. But he paskins that it's also to put on tefillin and Chol Hamoed. And he says a svara, which I'll show you soon. The Mishabura says a svara. So he says a svara. If you look 2 lines from the bottom, Hol v'olchol matzah v'yoshev v'sukkah ein tzarchos. Who says the os, the sign, the binding sign between us and Hashem, is the Isser Malacha? No. Maybe by Yom Tov, the os, because even by Yom Tov, okay, talk about it. But even by Yom Tov, it's not the same Isser Malacha that it is by Shabbos. We matter things for Ochel Nefesh. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. So who said the os of Yom Tov is the Isser Malacha? Maybe the os by Yom Tov, the sign, is the fact I sit in a sukkah. That's the os by Sukkos. What's the os by Pesach? Eating matzah. Do I have that in Chol Hamoed? 100%. There is no difference in eating matzah, Isser Chametz, sitting in a sukkah, taking a lulav and esrog, on Chol Hamoed, Pesach, and Sukkos. There's no difference in those halachas versus the rest of Yom Tov. So that being so, if that's an os, then okay, I have Yom Tov here. The same way I don't put tefillin on in Yom Tov, I wouldn't put tefillin on Chol Hamoed. If you go with the Isser Malacha being the Os, then one could argue, okay, there's no real Isser Malacha on Chol Hamoed. So I'm lacking an Os by Chol Hamoed. So I should put on Tefillin. The other tzad, Tosfos brings the tzad, no, maybe the Os is eating matzah. It's sitting in the sukkah. I have that on Chol Hamoed too. And therefore I would not need to put on Tefillin. I have an Os. I have this bond, even on Chol Hamoed. Now Tosfos says a svar at the end. There's a major debate if the Isser Malacha on Chol Hamoed is Doraisa or D'Rabbanan. Tosfos takes an argument, even if you say it's a Doraisa Isser, there's still room to say that one could or should put on Tefillin on Chol Hamoed, because even though it's a Doraisa Isser, but the heterim you find are more far-reaching than what you have by Yom Tov, and for sure, in contrast to Shabbos. So the nature of the Isser Malacha on Chol Hamoed is dramatically different than Shabbos and Yom Tov. And even if you'll say it's Doraisa, there's still reason to think that it's different than Shabbos, and therefore you do not have an Os by this Isser Malacha, and therefore you would put on the phone. So you already see Tosfos was debating such a point. Does one put up tefillin on Chol Hamoed or not? And the crux of the shaila is, do you view Chol Hamoed as an Os? And part of the big issue is the Isser Malacha on Chol Hamoed is dramatically different than the Isser Malacha we have on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Shabbos, all 39 malachas are Aser. Right? Can you cook on Shabbos? No, there's no heter or nefesh on Shabbos. It's only by Yom Tov. And even what you have on Yom Tov, we have a heter to cook. Do we have a heter to go to work if I'm going to lose parnasa on Yom Tov? No. But you do have that heter when it comes to Chol Hamoed. If davar ha'avod, if you're going to lose major money, one is allowed to go to work on Chol Hamoed. So you see that the level of Isurim, Shabbos is the most stringent. Yom Tov, there's a gap between Shabbos and Yom Tov. Yom Tov, there are heterim, and Chol Hamoed, there are even more heterim. So if the defining factor of Shabbos being an Os is the Isser Malacha, okay, you don't have the same Isser Malacha by Yom Tov, for sure not by Chol Hamoed. So maybe that's why Chol Hamoed you have to put on Tefillin. But Yidach Gisa, if you look at the fact, well, maybe the Os by Yom Tov and by Chol Hamoed is the mitzvahs of Yom Tov. Maybe that's the Os. That's the binding aspect. Okay, if that's the Os, you have it by Chol Hamoed also. Now let's bring this down to practical halacha. Let's read the Shulchan Aruch. This is Siman Lamed Aleph, or Chaim Siman Lamed Aleph, Sif Beis. The Mechaber writes, B'chol Hamoed gam kein aser lo niach tefillin. On Chol Hamoed it would be prohibited, aser, to put on tefillin. Ne'atam hazeh ba'atzmo shemechol Hamoed gam heim os. That the days of Chol Hamoed are also a sign, and since Chol Hamoed is an os, that's the reason why it'll be aser to put on tefillin. That's the Mechaber. That Mechaber classic is a Sephardic Psak Halacha where there's a machlokas. Hagav, v'yesh omrim, the Ramah writes, Shechol Hamoed chayiv b'tefillin. One says it's aser, the other one says it's chayiv. The Ramah writes it's chayiv to put on tefillin. V'chein noagin b'chol golios elu lo nichem b'moed. The Ramah writes, this was the minhag in all our countries, all throughout Europe. We put on tefillin on Chol Hamoed. So this is a black and white, no pun intended. This is a black and white machlokas Ashkenazim and Sephardim. Sephardim would go with the Mechaber. Mechaber says to not put on tefillin. It's aser to put on tefillin. And the Ramah writes that you should put on tefillin. You're chayiv. you're obligated to put on. Now we'll see. Practically, we're going to say without a bracha, but you put on tefillin. Now the Aruch HaShulchan does an excellent job summarizing. He goes through all the different Shittas Rishonim. I want to read in the Aruch HaShulchan from the middle of the piece, towards the end of the line. He writes, it's a little dark on the side. He writes, Al Pia Zohar. I want to read from there. Kasvu aposkim de asr l'nicham. So the Zohar writes, it's asr to put on tefillin. So besides the Svardim,
The Zohar.
those who follow the Zohar, which are many Hasidim,
And Sparta.
right? And Svardim already in the Mechaber, right? But they hold it's also to put on tefillin. For Rabbeinu Beis Yosef, Pasuk Shein L'nicham. That's part and parcel why the Beis Yosef, Yosef Cairo, and Tzfas Paskin, that it's you should not put them on. For Rabbeinu Ramah, Pasuk Sheyesh L'nicham. Okay. Now he writes a pretty cool lashon, the Aruch HaShulchan. V'chol Svardim imanichem, v'chol Ashkenazim anichem. All the Svardim do not put on tefillin, but all the Ashkenazim put on tefillin. That's a very strong statement, right? No third party here. Right? Who's just talking about the third party, right? Are you Democrat or Republican? Are you an Ashkenazi or Sephardi? Sephardim do not put on tefillin. V'chol ha'Ashkenazim put on tefillin. Now, I'll read you a few lines, skip 3 lines down. He writes, Achshav Rabu Gamkim bin Ashkenazim Shalom Nicham. Nowadays, there are also, you'll find Ashkenazim who don't wear. Ve'in laharf b'zeh. But I don't want to talk too much about it.
Ben Gurion didn't wear.
Huh? That was a good line, right? That was a Chazon Ish type line. Ed, Mechaber the Chazon Ish. They asked, what do you do? They asked Panovich Rav, what do you do? Matzvot. You say halal with a bracha, without a bracha. He says, I do what Ben Gurion does. So yeah,
But he never said hollow for anything.
right. Now I assume we thanked Hashem at some point, but okay. Anyway, so what do you have over here? You have over here seemingly a very clear black and white machlokas to put on tefillin or not. You know, the Chavetz Chaim brings in the bottom there, the first Mishnah Berurah, Vav. He writes, "Bepesach achilas matzah u'v'sukkah l'yeshiva sukkah." Those are an oz, and that would be the reason why the Mechaber writes not to put on. Since we hold the way the Chavetz Chaim writes that the Isser Malacha is only midrabanan, so Memela, there is no oz, okay, like we explained before. But it comes out from here, a very interesting point. And I discussed this yesterday with multiple people, including a renowned posik. And it comes out the following. Look, if someone's a Sephardi, okay, so then it's clear the Mechaber says not to put on the phone. If someone comes from a clear Hasidic minhag, so the Hasidim follow the Arizal, they don't put on the phone. Now, I must say the Gra also
The Gra said no.
said no.
Yeah.
And that's why in Yerushalayim, the minhag is not to put on the phone. And a lot of people, okay, so in general, a lot of people, La Ba'al Tshuva passed through Yerushalayim, that's Kimitzion Teitzei Tzara, passed through Eretz Yisrael, and they're accustomed, when they become Ba'al Tshuva, look, in Eretz Yisrael, they're putting the phone on Hamoed, they're putting the phone on Hamoed. And to be honest, there are many Rabbanim that people ask them, Shilos, should put in the phone, not put in the phone. And I've heard different psakim, but from what I've heard is the correct psak is if you're an Ashkenazic heritage Jew, is one should be wearing the phone on Chol Hamoed. Now let me say further. What that would mean is, and it's just talking to some guys in the base measures this morning, asked them the topic of the share, this. I said, put on this, What people ask me, his father was a Baal Tshuva. So it means he doesn't really have any minhagim. So he asked what to do. I said, okay, go ask a Shaila. But I think they would tell you to put on tefillin. But I haven't been putting on tefillin since my bar mitzvah. It's been years. Okay, great. Now I can chop the mitzvah. Right? And I've heard poskim tell, my father doesn't put on tefillin. Okay?
Look. Put on tefillin, period.
Right. Yeah, I'm not talking about Tshuva. But yeah, Lamaisa, even if one's parents, again, if there's a clear-cut family minhag, which goes back to clear sources, they come from Hasidic background, someone else can do it. We're Ashkenazim, but we go with Sephardi minhagim, We grew up in Sephardi countries. Okay, that's okay. You're in general mixed up. Okay, if you go with Sephardic minhagim, kol kavod. But short of a clear Masorah of a Sephardic or Hasidic tradition, of what I've heard and seen from poskim is they'll tell people to put on tefillin, even if one didn't put on till now. Yes.
What about the idea that you should follow the rove of the community?
Very interesting idea. Now, the Chavetz Chaim discusses that actually in the bottom. Right, there's an issue of a losis godedu, and it's a little tricky step. Losis godedu says that it's not good in one shul to have differing minhagim. So, for example, right, if the shul's minhag is not to wear tefillin, so then inside the main sanctuary of the shul, there really shouldn't be people putting on tefillin. If you do put on tefillin, what you should do is go into the women's section, right? That's a good quiz. When does the Hasidic shul allow tefillin in the women's section? Huh?
People would come to find out.
Right. Hey, Al, you put that in your thing. Right? Tefillin allowed in the women's section coming up this Monday. You'll have some crazy person show up there.
This is why you need upstairs like they have in RSA.
Yeah. It's interesting. In the Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva, they're makbid that in the base medrash, you have to wear tefillin. Okay. People not wearing tefillin, go out. When I grew up in Brooklyn, there was another yeshiva, Chaim Berlin. Their minhag is not to wear tefillin. And I was banished to the upstairs because I wore tefillin.
Doesn't seem like we're too makbid here.
Huh?
It doesn't
Correct.
seem like we're makbid.
Correct.
Isn't there,
That's why you should.
there's a bit of a to-do about this, but there's definitely more room in a shul that wears tefillin for a guy to sit there not wearing tefillin.
Yeah, right.
Because it could happen. In other words,
Right.
You may go into a place during the week. Let's say forget about Hamoed.
You forgot your
saw a
tefillin,
guy
right.
sitting there with no tefillin, you'd assume that, I don't know, something's wrong with his tefillin, right? Many times he forgot his tefillin, or I've done it. You have to have your tefillin checked, right? Most people don't have two pairs of tefillin. What do? You go to the shul. Sometimes you're lucky. You go to the gabbai, and some shuls have extra pairs of tefillin.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't. They're being
Yes.
and you have to wait until somebody else finishes Shema Esrei and take their tefillin. So somebody's sitting there. I don't know if you would use that
Yes.
if you had
Yes.
7 people sitting there.
But Lamaisa, what I would say, what does come out is unless there's a clear minhag that one has, there's no, we would say, yes, if you're in a shul where people are not wearing tefillin, then you have one of two options. Either daven, in Yerushalayim, in Eretz Yisrael, you're forced to do this. You daven without tefillin. And then B'tzinim, private, you put on tefillin. Because there's a very strong minhag you can't put on. You can't put on the women's section. Eretz Yisrael are very makbid. So, close the shades of my dorm room when I was learning Eretz Yisrael, put on tefillin there. But in our shuls today, there are many shuls, they're mixed up. They have both men and, people with tefillin, without tefillin inside the shul davening. But even if you're banished to the women's section, if your minhag is to wear tefillin, then one should wear tefillin. And even if a person has a minhag not to wear tefillin, sometimes you have to verify how strong a minhag is that. because, and let me throw in this the step. We don't practically paskin. You do not make a bracha when you put in tefillin Chol Hamoed. It's actually one of the trickier things to do. People by nature, you put in tefillin, you start making a bracha. Just have in mind not to make. Don't make a bracha. Chavetz Chaim also offers an interesting tanah. To make sure you're yotzi all the details, he says you should have the following idea in mind. Look, if what I'm doing is the correct thing to put on tefillin, then I'm putting on tefillin. If,
Is that a bracha?
correct, right. Because mitzvahs are not ma'akev if you make a bracha or not. So if the correct mitzvah is, end of the day, there is a dispute, right? It's machlokas haposkim, rishonim, there is hak, whether one puts on tefillin or not. So the Chavetz Chaim says like this, look, you should put on tefillin. But before you put on tefillin, this is what you should say. This is what he says to Ashkenaz. Is make a tanah, make a condition. If I'm supposed to put on tefillin, so that's what I'm doing. I'm putting on tefillin now to become the mitzvah. If I'm not putting on tefillin, if I'm not supposed to be putting on tefillin, I'm just dressing up for my Black Lives Matter picture. Right?
So
This is just a prop.
In either event, you make no bracha.
In either brand, you make no bracha. But the difference being that going with the Ramah, that there's a chiyuv to put on tefillin. Not just you could put on tefillin. That's why it's a very strong thing. The Hasidim and the Svardim, it's also to put on tefillin. But by the Ashkenazim, it's a chiyuv to put on tefillin. So you put on your tefillin, you don't make a bracha, you have in mind this idea that, look, if I'm supposed to be doing it, I'm putting it on in this tefillin. If I'm not supposed to be doing it, I'm just playing around.
What about removing before holiday?
So those are the other few interesting halachas. Originally, it broke.
Where people don't remove
Right,
for holiday.
right.
Yeah.
So the common practice is to remove before halal, even in Chazar Tashat, after you. Now there are some that have a minhag, especially by I forget which day. One of the days, maybe the first day of Sukkot, where it's filled. Oh, it's Pesach. Okay, the God. I was looking for the Gabbais. No, but there when we lane the actual parshas of Tefillin, the laning on Chol Hamoed, there's a minute some people have to keep it on, but you're right, that only extends for that one laning, so you really should take it off.
Do you have to wait
Before
until
Hallel.
the end of Hatzor Shas?
So the Mishnah Berurah brings you can take it off right away after
Right
that.
away after Kiddush.
Right, he says still pay attention,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're from the generation of multitasking. We could roll up on Tefillin and answer Amen at the same time. Yes.
There are shuls that hold that the chazan, if he's wearing tefillin, should wait till after Hallel, so he's not.
Right. I saw someone talk specifically by Sukkot. They said you should make sure to take off.
Right, because then you have the extra remulav, so it's a steer to do it with.
It sounds like a steer start in Sasser. Right. But Rav Moshe, the Aruch HaShulchan, similarly the Chavetz Chaim, would say that if you're of Ashkenazic genealogy, one should put on tefillin and Chol Hamoed. Yes.
If we say some brachas lahagul, why does the Ramah say you make a bracha?
Yeah. So, I'm not sure the answer to that question. You're asking, the Ramah does right to even make a bracha on tefillin. So, it sounds like the Ramah takes clearly the shita that you should wear tefillin. He's possibly strongly that way. The Chavetz Chaim is trying, in general, the Chavetz Chaim does this in many places. You see the same type of hak. Chavetz Chaim is always nervous about brachas. Savi brachas lahakol. And he very much, that's a shita. Okay, let's not make a bracha. Let's not ma'akiv, as I told Akiva before, right? You get scarf for the mitzvah, even if you don't make the bracha. So, just to conclude, we don't necessarily think about tefillin, in these terms. That, tefillin is my engagement ring, is my wedding band with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what it is. And understanding the nature of what Chol Hamoed is, which we said is a very misunderstood holiday, end of the day, there's an Isser Malach on Chol Hamoed. Okay, whether it's D'oraisa D'Rabbanan. Okay, it's not the same necessarily as a Shabbos, so maybe that's the reason it's not an os. But if you look at the matzah and the sukkah, hey, it's the same on Chol Hamoed as the rest of Yontif. So, okay, maybe that is a nose. Don't need to put on. It comes out a very clear black and white machlokas, Machaber Ramah, with a few extra people jumping on the Machaber side, the Hasidim, perhaps Grudniks. I think Chaim Berlin probably goes that way because of the Gra. They can try to go do Om Hagya Gra. Okay? But short of that, the common I think idea in yeshivas, in bastions of Ashkenazic Jewry, is to wear tefillin on Chol Hamoed, and even if someone didn't wear till now, that's not a reason not to put on, not to start this Chol Hamoed, because L'maisa, as the Chavetz Chaim writes, the tzad is a chiyuv, and
proselytizing.
Right. I'm not Chabad, right? That's the funny joke. I'll just end with this one, right? Right. You go to a Chabadsker on Chol Hamoed, ask him if he put on tefillin today. That would be a way of pushing.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me. Are you Jewish?
You go to yeshiva.
Yes.
You wear tefillin.
You don't put on. If you're a bona fide Hasidic minhag not to put on, even if you come to a place where they put on, you do not have to put on, except for one exception. You can't daven for the Amud unless you do the minhag of the place.
Yes. Yeah, I see that here.
Okay, thank you very much. And Bez Hashem, next week we'll do full-fledged Pesach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's another.
Right.
So,
Sometime next week, we'll sure be
Right.
Also, there's going to show I would fill a book. If you hold it also to fill, people
on the shelf and
from people.
Right.
you don't have a reason to move it.
If you were also, right, the books. I mean, whatever that. Usually it's not really okay, because why would you be losing the
You put it with your
that's amazing.
Right.
Very smart. Very smart.
Let's say, like,
if you're only going to what time you come on, because
I went to a hotel. I went away for Yom.
Right.
so it's not going to be open up there.
Right after Yom.
What it
I have
was,
my
and
Tefillin.
then they get their husbands or someone.
Right.
And it was like a lot of people.
Beautiful.
I want to start trying to now they're Kalamasi.
It's filling in women's.
Some of the stuff I don't need.
It's very common.
Right. Oh, wow.
The first days of one parent, the second days of the other parent.
So that, right. That could be a problem. Right. That could be a problem also, right? When you're filling our
I think the shot is you're right. We always made too.
So they talk about whether you can, like, even wearing that. There are cases, because there's famous tefillin cases where, let's say you find tefillin and if it's in a makom bizoy, you're allowed to move them, or there's these strange cases on Shabbos. There's this case where you're allowed to wear tefillin on Shabbos. There's a case where, let's say you're outside in the
Okay, now you understand better?
there's no air. There's a pair of tefillin lying there. Now what are you going to do? You can't carry them back. You can't leave them here. So I think you're allowed to put them on. Put them on. Which is interesting because
It's very unusual.
why is that a malbut? Like, why are you
wanting people to put on phone?
What you're suggesting to do?
Why won't be Chabad for?
So Rabbi Kier, what do you say about
Yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah.
what constitutes a bona
By
fide
the
minhag?
wall, where he runs his family.
Right.
And also Machane.
We know, right, sure.
I know, so what's the
Right.
sheriff's conclusion?
The sheriff's conclusion is, by the way, I looked up, you ever say,
It's subject, no?
what's that? I think H.com has a piece on it, they quote the two different shittas, Svardim and Gra, whatever. And they say if you don't have a clear minhag, you should probably wear, but consult around.
I bet that's what I've heard.
No, but here's another point.
Good
that
ball.
Brazil has made this
Yeah.
point. Why not just do it in Suffolk and just be a civil?
Right, no. So the little tricky step is if you really are Hasidic or Sephardi,
Yeah.
right? I heard you still have your Sephardi picture. So if
It's
you're
in the
Sephardi,
calendar, so it doesn't matter.
if you're
It's the
Sephardi,
latest rumor that I made.
then it's awesome. Right? Machaber holds it's awesome.
Right.
So you can't just.
So we do it
No, but
with
if
the
someone,
tonight.
if somebody,
What about doing it with the tonight?
Okay.
I do it with the tonight, actually.
Okay, right.
No
if
problem.
somebody knows that you're Ashkenazi, why not just?
Right.
do it?
Yeah, right.
Being-
Right.
So,
I don't know what my minhag is.
You
I
know,
might,
it's also-
I might be Hasidish, I might not be. I don't know. So
First of all, if you're Sephardi, maybe this would be a good time